What's up, y'all? It's Dr. Paul with Liberty Hill Comics, where I share my passion and over 40 years of experience comic book collecting, investing, and conservation with you. Today, we're continuing the conservation project for this copy of Flash number 123, the first appearance of the Golden Age Flash Jay Garrick in the Silver Age, and the first acknowledgement of an alternate reality in which the Golden Age heroes exist, which is the beginning of the multiverse concept in comic books. Published in September 1961 by DC, it was written by Gardner Fox and drawn by Carmine Infantino. It is also the first appearance in the Silver Age of Golden Age Flash villains, the Fiddler, the Thinker, and the Shade. This is a huge Silver Age key without which the multiverse concept in both DC and Marvel Comics wouldn't exist. In Episode 1, we completed a thorough assessment of this book and developed a conservation game plan. The cover had a small hole in it, but the major flaw we uncovered is that it appears someone spilled a can of Coke on the interior of this comic book, and wraps 1, 6, 7, and 8 were affected fairly dramatically. Wrap 8 is the centerfold, which appeared to be ground zero for the spill, and also has a spine split we need to address. Here is our conservation plan for the book, including disassembly, wet cleaning, deacidification, resizing for the cover, stain removal for the inner wraps, tear seals, cold press, reassembly, folding, and final press. In Episode 2, we disassembled the book to prepare for the coming work, setting aside the staples for use during reassembly later, carefully noting both the position and the orientation of each staple, and safely storing the interior pages away in Mylar whilst we work on the cover. In Episode 3, we completed work on the cover. We performed a total of 3 aqueous baths, each for 5 minutes. The first had a primary function of wet cleaning and contained a surfactant as well as calcium hydroxide in warm water. The second bath's primary function was to rinse away residual contaminants and the surfactant and consisted of calcium hydroxide in warm water. The last bath had a primary function of resizing the cover and contained methyl cellulose as a resizing agent, along with calcium hydroxide to leave an alkaline reserve in the comic book to protect against future acid-catalyzed hydrolysis of the paper. The rationale, formulae, calculations, and methods for all of these processes are explained in detail in my video on Advanced Comic Book Cleaning, Deacidification, and Resizing Methods, which you can view by following the link to that video if you're interested. After all of the wet work was done, we completed an archival tear seal and began our drying and cold press process. The results were phenomenal, a cover which was dramatically brightened without substantial loss of ink, and the tear seal strengthened the page and was essentially invisible. The resizing will strengthen the paper and make it water resistant, and we used no harsh chemicals that would provide aesthetically pleasing short-term results, but long-term damage to the paper. If you wish to watch any of those episodes before watching this one, just click on the playlist I've created for this project. Today, we're going to start work on the stained interior pages, and we're going to start with a simple wash of the centerfold with the same solution we used on the cover. We'll start with my photo development tray on my hobby mat, to which we'll add a sheet of Hollytex and then the centerfold. Try to make sure it's centered so that we can support it well with the Hollytex. Then I'll add another sheet of Hollytex on top. I'll introduce the solution. This is 500 mils total. It's 125 mLs of saturated calcium hydroxide. The balance being warm water with 5 drops of Triton X100, which should put the solution right at the critical micelle concentration for Triton X100. This solution is mildly basic, but it's very safe. So I'm just going to use my hands to flatten out the page and make sure we don't have any air bubbles and that the page is uniformly wet by the solution. You can see almost immediately we have some of the stain and the tanning coming out of the paper because our solution is yellowed really rapidly upon introduction here. We have several goals with this wash. First, we would like to decrease the staining, but we want to preserve the inks and of course the paper integrity. We also have 4 of the total wraps with stains. The 1st, 6th, 7th, and 8th wraps. The 8th wrap is the centerfold here. When we're done, we'd like there to be no noticeable difference in paper quality between those 4 wraps and the other 4, wraps 2 through 5, that don't have any significant staining. It may not be possible to achieve all these goals, but this is what we're going to set out to do. As I mentioned, this is the wash solution I prefer to use. 25% saturated calcium hydroxide in warm water with Triton X100 at the critical micelle concentration. Our Silver Age covers only tolerate this solution for a short period of time before suffering from ink degradation. But these interior wraps, I know from experience, can handle this solution for a much longer time. They also benefit from and tolerate well some occasional convective flow to move contaminants out of the paper more efficiently than diffusion alone. So I'm going to continue to look in on this page and move the fluid around and remove any air bubbles that develop. I'll monitor progress on the stain removal and leave the page in this solution up to 20 minutes. As conservators, we always like to take the least invasive approach to accomplishing our goals. I've surmised that this is a Coke stain, but in truth I have no way of knowing exactly what it is or what materials and methods may remove it successfully while maintaining paper and ink integrity. My plan is to start with the centerfold because it has the worst stains and appears to have been ground zero for the spill. We'll try the least invasive methods available to us and keep checking on the progress of cleaning up the stains, and once we're satisfied we've accomplished the best result our knowledge and skills will afford us on the centerfold, we'll treat the rest of the pages to the same process in hopes that the result will be a perfect match for paper quality. At the end of 20 minutes, this wrap is still very obviously stained, and I can see that we're going to have to move on to more invasive methods of stain removal. So I'll give it one more flattening out with my squeegee, and then we'll remove it from this bath and set up for our next procedure. When I need to step up beyond simple wet cleaning, my preferred next step is concurrent deacidification with photobleaching. Conservators have used photobleaching with various aqueous solutions for centuries, and there's a full literature on the subject. Calcium hydroxide is itself a very mild bleach and works together with light synergistically to produce a result that is better than either used by themselves. For details on why this is so, plus the history, practical application, and my methods and materials, check out this link to my video on concurrent photobleaching and deacidification of comic books. I've set up my photo development tray with 300 ml of aqueous solution. It's 100 ml of our saturated calcium hydroxide solution, 200 ml water, and I've placed our Hollytech sandwich with the centerfold in it into this solution. I'm only using 300 ml here because I want the page to be fully wetted, but I don't want there to be, say, an inch of solution above the page. And the reason why is we're going to use photo bleaching here, and I don't want the photons to have to penetrate inches of solution. But I want to make sure that my page stays wet. It's very important that it doesn't dry out during this procedure. So I'm placing these LEDs quite close. We're using blue LEDs in the 465 nanometer range. and they're only a couple of inches off the page. I'm going to leave the page in this solution with the LEDs for 1 hour, and then we'll check back and see. As I mentioned, the photo bleaching and the aqueous bath work together here to provide a better result than either would by themselves. An hour is about as long as I want to comfortably go without checking in on it, so I think we'll pull the page and dry it at that point. And we'll review the results after drying and a cold press. Before we review the results to the centerfold, here are the two rinsates from the wash and the deacidification bath and from the photo bleaching bath. You can see we've removed a lot of dark material from the page, some of which is tanning, but at least some of which must be our stain because this interior page frankly didn't have bad enough paper quality to give us this much color absorption from paper tanning alone. And when you look at the before and after pictures of the centerfold, they confirm that we've removed significant staining pigment from the page. While I think this is a good start, and we've had neither loss of the ink nor ink bleed through, I think we can do better. Next episode, I'll show you what I do when I need to step up stain removal even further from the 2 steps we performed today. I sincerely appreciate you joining me today for the conservation project featuring this key Silver Age comic book. Do you think we'll be able to completely remove this stain from the centerfold while retaining the ink and paper integrity? Most of the materials we're using for this project, including the chemicals used in the aqueous bath, the photo development tray, hobby mats, LEDs, and fixtures, are available from Amazon in the affiliate links in the video description if you need any of them for your own conservation efforts. If you enjoyed this video, please take a few seconds to give it a thumbs up and leave a comment, and please subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. It really helps me get the word out about our channel and our comic book conservation efforts. Until next time, take care of one another.